Hey everybody, welcome to Sherdog.com for the Trenches, episode 3. This is our live chat. So I am Anthony Walker. I'm in Las Vegas right now for UFC 229 in the confines of my beautiful hotel room. And instead of Jason Burgos this time, we got the man himself, one of the managing editors. This guy's a legend right here, Ben Duffy. What it do, brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's good to be here with you. I wish I were in Vegas.
Yeah, man, it's crazy out here. So I know the people have some questions. We'll get started and we'll talk about some shit.
Sounds like a plan. I mean, right off the bat, I'm a fan like anybody else. I have a couple questions for you.
All right, what's up? Shoot.
Well, I mean, I've been kind of here in the editing room catching the live pieces that you've been filing all afternoon from the press events, and I couldn't help but notice that you did bump into at least some fighters who aren't on the bill at all, don't have anything scheduled, and are just kind of there to be part of the circus, notably Mike Platinum Perry.
Right.
Anyone else interesting that you bumped into that's not really directly associated with the card and have any good conversations?
Dan Hardy definitely had a good conversation with Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy, man, he was great to talk to. So I think there's a piece that's filed on that as well. Dominic Cruz is one who's been walking around a lot. I didn't get a chance to speak with him, but he's out there. He's actually on some official duty for the UFC. He was walking around with a clipboard, and he tried to cut in line in front of me to talk to Derrick Lewis. But I've also been on him. You know how tough I am. I don't want Cruz to whip my ass. I'm sorry, man. Please don't hurt me. I'm a man of peace.
I saw what he did to that rug in that commercial.
Hey, man. Yeah, I'm not trying to be that rug. No, thank you, sir. I'm good. Yeah, man. So as far as the media day went, it was an interesting setup. So this was my first time doing a media day where they had the blue corner and the red corner fighters separated. I'd imagine that'd be for security reasons, but then at the same time, Khabib and Conor were not participating in the media day. So maybe it was just a logistical thing. There is a lot of media here right now, a whole lot of people that I've never seen before covering fights. So that might have just been a simple numbers game. I will say the food that they gave us was off the hook. They had some shrimp quesadillas, top notch, bro, top notch.
You killing me, Ant.
Yeah, man. So it was cool, man. Had some good conversations with a lot of the fighters. I need to get this audio out to you guys. Had a decent conversation with Alan Patrick and his hype man / translator, Waleed Ismail. So yeah, that was very, very entertaining. So got some good stuff from those two gentlemen. Yeah, I would say despite the crowded media space, did get some good stuff out of it. So hope you guys are enjoying what we have for you on Sherdog.com.
Yes, please visit the Sherdog.com front page. There are at least 4 or 5 features that have gone up in the last couple hours based on interviews that you did there at the venue that have been kindly transcribed by our contributor, Matt McNulty. So if you're listening, haven't checked out those stories yet, please do. Last thought on that. I mean, one thing that Conor McGregor certainly brings to the mix and is a large crowd of people who don't usually cover MMA.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot. It's a whole lot. I don't know if you guys caught this in the presser that I just left, but man, there was some serious fans that happened to have credentials. There was one guy who was very excited to the point that he told Conor it was very nice to meet you as he asked a question about the proper 12 whiskey. So take it for what it is. It's a lot of fans out here. I'll just put it that way.
I'm gonna need some time to process that one.
I mean, hey, I'm a fan too. We're all fans. That's how we got into this. But yeah, you gotta just turn it off, man. So for instance, I've met doing work for Sherdog.com. I've met a lot of really cool people, a lot of fighters that have interesting conversation that I've watched for years and been very entertained by them. And I feel myself actually liking them as people, once you get to talk to them. But there's definitely a line that you try not to cross. I mean, of course, if you can become friends with whoever, That's going to happen. You know, natural human interaction. You can't stop that. However, when you're here on duty, you know, I got my little media wristband right now. I'll try to show it some respect and try to make sure that I'm being professional and talking to these guys like a professional. So you can expect that sort of thing with a big event like this. I mean, let's not forget that the presser for 205, one of the pressers for 205 had that one guy who was credentialed sitting amongst media and took it to himself to like taunt Eddie Alvarez and question, like, do you really think you can do this? You know, crazy talk, man, crazy talk. And man, so I'm not sure if I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are the people able to see you right now too?
I assume so.
Okay, so
I mean, maybe our producer Jay can let us know that, but I assumed that we were both visible.
Okay, cool. Well, whatever. Yeah. so we'll just leave it at that. Anybody who has otherwise, then yeah, you know, go ahead, kill us in the comments. So that's that. But yeah, man, let's get some of these questions answered, man. Let's see what's on the people's minds.
Will do. Let me start throwing them to you. We've got some interesting ones.
I'm sure somebody did ask, have I tried Proper 12? Somebody did ask that last week. I did try it last night. Good stuff for what it is. Not top shelf whiskey. It's not Basil Hayden, but it's good. It's good. It's good mid tier. It's definitely better than Jameson. So I'm not going to say fuck the Jameson brothers because they might be fine gentlemen. I don't know them, but hey, Proper 12 is pretty good. I'll give credit to that. Good stuff. All right. Sorry.
Good to know. That's important. That's the kind of hard-hitting journalism people come to us for.
Man, I got to do what I got to do for the people, man. This is the game of truth. I'm all about truth, justice, and yeah, all that good stuff.
All right, you ready for question number 1?
Yes, sir.
All right, this one is not directly UFC 229 related, but I thought it was an interesting one. Is Brock versus Daniel Cormier going to happen, or will DC fight Jones a third time and then retire?
I think Brock versus DC will happen because that's such a big payday. I know, of course, Jones versus DC3 would be a big payday as well, but who says you can't have both? DC, I think, will steamroll Brock Lesnar. He seems to believe that as well, and that's a fight that is very low risk stylistically for him, but comes with a big payday attached. I mean, there's a difference in the level of presence that you feel with Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones. Now, granted, Jon Jones is by far the superior fighter. We're talking about one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. But Brock Lesnar is a juggernaut of pay-per-view sales, a juggernaut of casual fan attention, and that translates to dollar signs when you get those pay-per-view points as a UFC champion. So what I see Daniel Cormier doing, I see him fighting Brock Lesnar as soon as that fight can be made. So I'd expect around like the Super Bowl card probably. We could see that happen. He does the damn thing against Brock, and then that translates into an even bigger fight against Jon Jones. We'll see if it's at heavyweight. I hope it is at heavyweight to change the dynamics. But hey, why not go out with 2 big paydays?
I'm with you on that one. And one underrated factor working into this is the fact that Cormier is an avowed longtime fan of professional wrestling. I mean, you saw the in-cage promo after DC beat Stipe. Have you ever seen a man so happy to get pushed in the chest by a 300-pound man?
Man, he was excited as all hell to get shoved back like that. And it was kind of funny, too, that dynamic, because I know I was one of those guys who jumped on Twitter and was like, man, the UFC letting Brock up in that cage just kind of ruined such an historic moment. And it was like right after I tweeted that, I'm like, looking at the big cheese grin on Cormier's face, I'm like, well, that's kind of a dumbass approach to it. On my end, I'll take the L on that. I mean, DC was there for it. He's a big fan. Remember I think it was after he won either the Strikeforce Grand Prix or it was after he won the UFC title. He was at WrestleMania or something like right afterward, and he's front row cheering and, hooting and hollering. And him and Brock Lesnar have had a long-standing relationship through amateur wrestling and through his fandom of WWE. So I would think that that DC is all there for it. He is a big pro wrestling guy, and why not?
Good call. All right, question for both of us. What one fighter are you absolutely certain will win at 229?
Hold on, give me a second. Let me look at the card real quick and look at some of these matchups.
I'll answer it first then, because I've been thinking about it. I'm not really stepping out onto a limb here. Not a real risky call. He is one of the biggest favorites on the card for a reason, but I've got Vicente Luque here. Vicente Luque is a fantastic fighter. I don't know what he is doing on the undercard fighting this opponent. He is not a perfect fighter. He has some flaws in his game. He's over aggressive. He does blow his gas tank. I think he makes his gas tank look worse than it really is by how aggressive he is. And the one loss he has in the UFC, he was just taken down and controlled on the ground by a superior wrestler. So he has flaws in his game, but this opponent is not the guy to take advantage of them. I mean, there's no sense throwing money at like a minus 800 favorite or whatever, but I mean, if I had $800 in my pocket right now, I'd throw it down to win 100.
Yeah, makes sense. You know what? And looking at the card, I'm going to have to second you on that one. Every other fight looks like something that could go either way. Every other fight looks like something where I can visualize both competitors winning. And I mean, especially the higher up you get on that card, it's like, I mean, it's anybody's guess. Somebody please tell me that for sure Ferguson and Pettis, the outcome. Tell me for sure the outcome of McGregor and Nurmagomedov. Like the higher that card gets, it just gets more confusing. It gets a little more drawn out and much more competitive. So yeah, Vicente Luque should be the guaranteed winner on the card. But hey, if we're wrong, Jalen, I'm sorry, bro.
Sorry. And yes.
All right. What else you got?
Do you want to see Wanderlei Silva fight Rampage Jackson a fifth time now that they're tied 2-2?
Why not? I guess this last fight between them two was a lot more fun than I anticipated it being. So if those guys are down for it, that's fine. And then also it keeps them from fighting guys who are younger and guys who are, quite honestly, would put a hurting on, fighters of such an advanced age and whatnot. They're equally matched, obviously, going 2-2. They have similar styles. They like to stand and bang. It'll be fun for fans. They're both down. They're of the same age and same experience level. Yeah, let's just keep it simple.
Before this fight, I would have disputed that they like to stand and bang. Rampage seems mostly to just like to stand for the last few years. But no, it was definitely a better fight than I expected. I don't know if I'm dying for a fifth one, but if it keeps the two of them away from Chuck and Tito, service to humanity.
Yeah. And we'll be getting Chuck and Tito, unfortunately, again, soon enough. And but you know what? If you throw those, if Rampage and Wanderlei are thrown in the mix along with Chuck and Tito, it had same experience levels, same level of whatever. It's kind of a no man's land when you start having matchmaking like this. But I guess the key thing is those two are really invested in this rivalry. Why not? All right. So what else you got for me, man?
Got a question from Jack on Fire from the Sherdog.com forums. And this one's definitely for you since you were in the element today. How much do you think you can tell about a fighter from watching them during fight week? How much stock do you put in open workouts, press conferences, stare downs? Go.
A little bit of stock, but at the end of the day, the guys have to fight. So the open workouts, I really don't rely on those a whole lot unless you see something absolutely crazy. If you see a guy coming out limping or something like, all right, he's injured. But how often is that something that you see? So the press conferences, you're gonna look at the mind games. You're gonna look to see who's gotten whose head and the back and forth and some of the trash talk. But at the end of the day, unless you're dealing with people whose mentalities you can kind of weave through, like Conor, for instance, his game is predicated on the mental warfare before anything else. So yeah, in that sense, yeah, maybe you could tell a little something, but at the end of the day, this guy's got to fight. I take more stock into how I see them during fight week without the cameras around necessarily, without that spotlight on them when they know it's on them. I'm more keen to something like how a guy looks when he walks in the room to sit down for media day than I am about his answers about his training camp or about what he looks like when he's doing pad work in front of an audience.
Great, thank you. Got a question from Yojimbo, again from the forums. Does Dana White risk the UFC's legitimacy by going after supposed big-name fights instead of giving opportunities to other fighters who have maybe earned their way? Example, Brock Lesnar entering the title picture despite having fought only once in the last few years.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, that is a risk on the legitimacy. And I get why in a lot of ways, because this is a business. They are there to make money. They are not putting on fights because it's a community service. They're putting on fights because they're trying to get paid. Dana's got to get more snow imported to his driveway. You got to have more rappers at your kids' birthday parties. That costs money. So they're trying to make a lot more of it. I get that. But at the same time, I think I would prefer more of a dedicated approach to sporting integrity, because I think that's going to yield the longer lasting results. So for instance, how long do you think the NFL would have lasted if they just paired up the teams with the high flying offense for the Super Bowl instead of the best team getting there? Yeah, you might have a few stinkers along the way, but you create these enduring storylines. You create, actual athletic competition, which breeds its own drama that I think is something that you can't just peel away the way you can with fights that are mismatched or fights that don't deserve the spotlight that they get, or fighters who are in spots that they didn't earn. So, and especially when you start talking about the title, I am of the firm belief that the title should mean something. It should mean something to put that belt on and say, hey, at this weight, I'm the best fighter in the world. That should still hold a place of importance. And the more moves that are made toward the interim belt factory that the UFC has become, or, giving Brock Lesnar a title shot despite him not having a legitimate win for years and not even competing in mixed martial arts. And the last time he did the steroid test, when you start adding these factors into it, then and it's clearly about theatricality, you're taking away the athletic integrity. And without the theater, we actually have a sport. Now we have something in between that doesn't seem to quite know what it is, and it's troubling. It doesn't yield the longest lasting results. Like, I want the sport to last forever, and there's no guarantee if you're just chasing that one big payday. This is the problem that boxing ran into a little bit. You're chasing that big payday and you're not reinvesting in the sport. You're trying to get the biggest number you can, the most amount of money, and then what? Then think about plan B. And then we have so.
I'm with you. And I mean, if I may, kind of offer my 2 cents on this, mixed martial arts and certainly the UFC, at the highest level, it is an entertainment industry. I mean, it's in the context of an athletic competition, but they're selling entertainment. They're selling personalities. They're selling kinetic excitement. But that entertainment and that marketability is predicated on the idea that they are trying to figure out who the best fighter is in each weight class. And I'm not saying that this matchmaking has to be completely merit-based. I mean, I'm on record as saying I was fine with Truth versus Punk, because they weren't fighting for a title. They were taking some space and giving us a show. But the more the sensationalist matchmaking kind of breaks into the actual picture of contention, the more that idea gets devalued. And if the viewers don't believe that the UFC is actually based on merit and trying to figure out who the best fighters are, it might as well be professional wrestling at that point. Yeah. If all you're selling is people throwing each other around, and there's no real world drama going on, then it might as well be professional wrestling. So there has to be a balance where it's at least based on being a legitimate athletic contest.
Couldn't have said that better, man. Beautiful stuff right there. That's all the sense in the world. All right, Ben, let's see what else we got.
All right. A question that came up, and we actually made this the poll question on the forum thread. And by the way, if you want to take part in that discussion or throw questions out for Ant, go to the Sherdog.com front page. There is a link to the forum thread. You can participate in the poll, and you can throw out any questions you have. The question is, between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is in whose head? The options are Conor is in Khabib's head, Khabib is in Conor's head, neither or both. And what do you think?
I definitely think Conor is in Khabib's head at this point, and I don't see it being the other way around. Conor is being himself. He's doing everything that we expect him to do. He's dropping F-bombs left and right. He's promoting his whiskey. He's, making his threats on everyone. He's doing everything textbook Conor style. Khabib, on the other hand, he's still, stoic for the most part, but you can see these cracks, man. You can definitely see the cracks and how this is starting to get to him. So, for instance, at the open workouts, I don't know how much you guys caught of that. I tried to catch some video to put on Twitter and Instagram of this, but Khabib had like a rant against the fans. There was one fan in particular who was saying a lot of stupidity. It was right behind me, unfortunately, and my ears are still bleeding from his nonsense. But Khabib directly addressed that guy. Like, he addressed that guy. So the champion of the UFC's most competitive division addressed some jackass in the stands. Like, that says a lot. And he tried to start his history lesson about native Irish language, which was not going over well with the crowd at the open workouts. He looked really, really agitated with Conor being late. I know part of that might have been theatrics to storm off the stage the way he did, but he still looked very agitated and took an unprecedented amount of time to address the taunts of the crowd, even as the crowd was drowning out his answers to questions with the Ole chants and you shit on the bus and all that. You could see in his face getting twisted up a little bit. He still was stoic by most measures, but it was like emotion for Khabib, if that makes sense. Khabib level emotion, which to us, to like a regular person, wouldn't be a whole lot of emoting. But we've watched Khabib for a long time. That was an emotional Khabib.
Do you feel as though it will come into play on Saturday night? I mean, Conor, there's a method to his madness. I mean, he gets under these people's skin, but a lot of his best victories came from prodding these people into not following their game plan maybe as well as they should have. I mean, I don't pretend to be in any fighter's head. I am not a mind reader. But if you look at Aldo, Poirier, and Alvarez, would you say those are McGregor's 3 best wins?
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Caught them all coming in angry.
Yeah.
Or looking angry.
Especially Aldo. A world tour with that man snatching your belt and screaming in your face and everything. Yeah, I see why Aldo just rushed out on the way he did. In fact, it reminds me of a little inside story that I didn't have to share with anyone in MMA media because I wasn't part of the media at this point. I was bartending at the hotel that Bellator sends its fighters to film their Dave and Buster's commercials in LA. And so I've met a lot of the Bellator fighters there as just a regular guy. Talked to King Mo. And he, at one point, I don't know if he still is, but he was at least part of ATT and helped Poirier with that training camp for Conor. And he tells me that he told Poirier, take him down. You can out-wrestle him. Take him down and you win a decision, but just win that fight. And he says that Dustin was so affected by the trash talk that he was insisting that he was going to knock him out. He made sure he stood up with McGregor, and we see the result. And look no further than Jose Aldo as well, a guy who has been very methodical about the way he attacks his opponents. And he got so charged up that he pretty much ran at McGregor as soon as that bell rung, and we see what happened there. So when Conor McGregor does his thing, it works. And will that play into things with Khabib? I'm not sure. I think it might play in a subtle way because Khabib is not the average guy. He is he's had a hellish background. You look at his childhood and where he grew up. I mean, these are guys in Dagestan. They grew up literally in a war zone. So a guy, a likely drunk guy, yelling at them at a press conference, in a very fly suit, by the way, is not necessarily going to raise the ire of a guy who's dealt with war zones. Remember Ali Bagnotinov, who I believe grew up in the same region, was talking about how he would fall asleep to attack helicopters flying above where he stayed as a child. You grew up like that. Trash talk may get you agitated, but it may not throw you out of character. So I think if anything, it'll exaggerate some of the flaws that Khabib shows in his approach to get the fight in his desired realm, but it may not be the end all be all. But hey, it's fun to watch. It's definitely been entertaining for us to observe as fans and journalists.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, let's see what else we got.
Oh, hey, this question is from me. I asked it in the chat earlier, but I'll give you a chance to give your answer to the listeners. Being a Houston guy myself and having run into him a few times, not literally, thank goodness, is Derrick Lewis not one of the hugest motherfuckers you've ever encountered, even by heavyweight mixed martial arts standards?
I can confirm that Derrick Lewis is, in fact, one of the hugest motherfuckers that I've ever encountered, even by mixed martial arts standards. He is a big dude, man. So shaking his hand is like this dense block of human mass. And he's, and I have like some hand injuries left over from my days as a boxing trainer. So like, mitts for 100-something rounds a week is not good on my hands. But yeah, so I was like, thank God he didn't shatter my hand when he shook it. But he's definitely a big dude, and he's not the tallest guy. I mean, he's tall, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. Like I've seen Stefan Struve in person. Yeah, Stefan Struve, man, can barely fit inside this room. But dude, Derrick Lewis takes up a lot of space. He's a massive human being. But Volkov is even bigger. So Volkov, man. Yeah, Volkov is tall, man. My goal in life, one day, I want to dunk on Alexander Volkov, but I don't think it's gonna happen like that.
I don't think it's gonna happen either, Spud.
Yeah, I'm getting that shot blocked, and yes, I caught the Spud Webb reference, and I'm actually about Spud Webb's height, so thanks for that. Appreciate that, Ben.
My pleasure, sir.
Yeah, but Derrick Lewis, cool guy. He agrees with me on Devin the Dude being one of the best rappers out of the South. So shout out to Devin the Dude, man. That's a real MC right there.
Absolutely. Love me some Devin.
Yes, sir.
Even
what else we got?
Who is Crow Cop going to fight at the New Year's Eve event for Ryzen?
I have no idea. I'm not even going to pretend that he can. They'll find somebody. They'll find a warm body, probably some judo Olympian or somebody with like some sort of decorated background who's rather inexperienced in mixed martial arts. Probably.
I'm with you, and I mean the thing is, believe it or not, Crow Cop is on a 9-fight winning streak. And while some of that 9-fight winning streak reflects some very Japanese matchmaking, there are some live bodies, or formerly live bodies, in the trail of dead there. Having said that, that's not what he's going to face on New Year's. Right, Ryzen is not into challenging their big names on New Year's Eve. It is a showcase.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see the left leg cemetery once again. Don't expect high level competition. Expect a slaughterhouse. In
fact, here's my line. Crow Cop's opponent on New Year's Eve, the over-under on number of mixed martial arts bouts on his ledger, 1.5.
1.5. Oh, see, I was thinking they would at least get a guy who had maybe 5 fights.
No. It'll be 2 or it'll be 50.
Okay. We'll have like a lot of competition somewhere else that doesn't necessarily translate to mixed martial arts well.
Right.
Oh, did people just catch my little belts right there? My fault. My bad. All right, so what else we got?
All right, give me just a moment here to find the.
Sure. And in the meantime, I guess we'll just say tune in to to the YouTube channel later on. We've got a recap of the presser that I just filmed a little while ago, so that'll be going up shortly as well. So, all right, back to it.
Back to it. No sense saving this question any longer. 315 MMA fighter from the forums. How you doing, Ant? Danny here. Nice to meet you, sir. One question for you. McGregor or Khabib? Simple enough, yeah?
Yeah, simple enough. So first off, what up, Danny? Appreciate the love, my brother. And I'm leaning toward Conor here. I'm leaning toward Conor. Of course, I'm going to hedge the hell out of that bet. First of all, I'm not putting a single dime on this. I wouldn't touch this with anybody's betting dollars. But if you are betting and you want to bet Conor, do it now before more Irish fans show up and the lines start closing up, because I believe he's still an underdog right now. So go ahead, and if that's your bet, go ahead, place it now while you can. And if you want, if you think Khabib is going to do it, you want to put your money on him, wait until as late as possible for that, because those lines, McGregor might be the favorite by the time all the Irish money gets laid down. So that'll be Ant's betting tip for the week. But I'm going to lean toward Conor, and it's very simple for me in that it's going to be about footwork. Footwork, I think, is the key to Conor's victory. Khabib's weakest link, I think, is his footwork. His footwork in striking and his footwork in even trying to get the fight to his realm. And that's one of the areas that Conor exceeds at. He's definitely a master of controlling the distance and using his feet to get away. So when you're talking about Conor McGregor and his takedown defense, you're not necessarily talking about someone grabbing a hold of him and him sprawling out and shooting his hips back. In my eyes, what you're talking about is being in the correct position to get that takedown in the first place. And that's where it starts getting complicated. If you have footwork that can be suspect sometimes, good luck getting in that position. Now, that's not to say that Khabib might just rush out there. Maybe that big left hand misses and he's right on McGregor. Very possible. But I suspect the guy who already is one of the premier strikers in mixed martial arts, taking time off to focus exclusively on his boxing and his footwork, fighting a defensive and masterful craftsman that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is. I expect his striking, I expect his footwork, everything to be a lot sharper than what we've seen. And that's scary for that moment that the fight is starting on the feet and he's got a guy with suspect footwork trying to move in and initiate his game. So that's my take in a lot of words that probably weren't necessary. What's your take, Ben?
Well, first of all, let me ask you one quick follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
If your money, well, not your money, you said you wouldn't even bet this with my money. Thank you. But if your call is for McGregor, is there added value in taking McGregor inside the distance?
Yeah, because I don't see this fight being something that plays out to the distance with Conor as the winner. I'm not looking, when I'm visualizing this fight, I'm not looking at a back and forth battle where there's drama as the scorecards are about to be read. I don't see McGregor Diaz 2 here. I see somebody getting railroaded one way or the other, because imagine if Khabib gets Conor down and he's able to just hold him down, do what he wants with him. That's going to be very devastating. And while Conor, I believe, is a very underrated grappler, I think he's very underrated as a grappler, still Khabib is just another level of monster when it comes to that. And we haven't seen any cracks in that armor so far, except maybe the Gleison Tebow fight, which I don't even remember that fight getting to the floor at all. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But we haven't seen enough from Conor's ground game to say that he's going to be able to handle Khabib from bottom position. But at the same time, the weaknesses that Khabib shows and the strengths that Conor shows, they don't warrant any sort of Conor winning by decision. They support Conor winning by devastating knockout if he doesn't get ground and pounded out.
Excellent. Thank you so much for amplifying that answer for us. For me, I mean, I have a gut feeling about most fights. This one, there are a lot of unknowns, and I have the feeling I'll know a lot more about how I feel about 30 seconds in. Because, I mean, it seems very plausible that, that Khabib will be able to close the distance, get his hands on him, give him a one-way trip on Air Dagestan, to the floor. But at the same time, 30 seconds in, we might realize, oh my goodness, the difference in foot speed and footwork is ridiculous. And we might realize 30 seconds in, okay, no, Conor's got this. It's just a matter of time before he knocks this dude flat out. I haven't seen enough of Conor McGregor against 155 pounders, like good size 155 pounders, to really know what the speed differential is going to look like.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. I mean, and that seems to be the general idea amongst a lot of the fellow media members here, is that we'll know very early on who's going to win this fight. So yeah, within the first minute, I think the story will have already been told.
Outstanding. It's interesting that you kind of went in the direction you did on that answer, because one of the questions here is from the Brown Ranger, which I'm not completely up to speed on my last few Power Rangers franchises, but I don't believe there was ever a Brown Ranger.
No. I mean, is this too easy to make a shit Ranger joke here? I don't know, but
well, either that or like the racist 70s comic book hero direction.
Yeah, I actually that. Yeah, oh man, I don't want to even go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I feel you. We'll talk about that one.
All right. But the Brown Ranger asks, what is the worst case of revisionist history in MMA? And I'm happy to offer one up on this.
Oh, please do.
I don't know about the worst case of revisionist history in all of MMA history. I mean, I would have to take a couple of days and write a top 10 list. But one that's been on my mind recently is this idea of Khabib Nurmagomedov being a completely unstoppable juggernaut from the time he stepped into the UFC. He was very much a work in progress when he arrived. And you have heard Joe Rogan at this point say a few times, Khabib has never lost a round of any fight he's been in since he's been in the UFC. He's completely trashed everybody. But if you roll back to that Gleison Tebow fight, he struggled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking at it right now, but I want to say that Sherdog's scorers scored it for Tebow.
Right. Actually, yes, they did. I did look that up recently. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not going to say, and this was before I was on board, so I'm not shining myself on here, but I think the media and certainly Sherdog scorers get it right more often than the real judges do. And I remember in that fight thinking, Tebow's winning this. And before Nurmagomedov came along, Tebow was the guy who was too big, too strong for lightweight. Nobody could understand how he cut that much weight, and he just wrestled everybody down. I mean, he didn't devastate them in the same way once he got them there, but I mean, he kind of was the pre-Nurmagomedov in that way. And Khabib struggled. And I want to say I recall Rogan saying in the last round of that fight that Khabib needed to finish if he wanted to win the fight. So it's kind of ironic to hear him, 6 years later, saying that Khabib has never lost a round. Because if Joe put down the TRT, the DMT, and the THC, he might remember a fight that he commented on where he knew that Khabib lost a couple rounds. So that's revisionist history happening right in front of us. Khabib is a great fighter. He's shortlist of the greatest lightweights ever, especially if he wins this fight. But he was a work in progress when he arrived in the UFC, and he has been honing his game in between fighting and being injured.
Yeah, and and good call on the scorecards on that one from Sherdog. So just saw that Jay sent me the scores right here. The scores were 2 30-27s and 1 30-28 in favor of Gleison Tebow. So yeah, that's the story right there.
Was the 30-28 from Jordan Breen?
Not sure. I didn't get the names, but shout out to Jordan, maybe.
Shout out to 10-10 round Jordan.
Now, I'm trying to think, like, that was a really good one. The revisionist history that I can, you know what? No, you know what? Because I guess it isn't revisionist history. Maybe it's looking back at history. I'll go with the Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner fight. That was definitely an absolute historic moment for the promotion as far as the level of fans that it attracted. I was watching that fight on the edge of my seat, but now when I look back on it, it was all right. It was all right. It doesn't hold up to the test of time when I see it now, and maybe that's because the game has evolved so much. Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner, as great competitors as they weren't necessarily known for their technical prowess. So it devolved into a brawl very quickly. And granted, that brawl is responsible for a lot of the boom in fandom and a lot of the money that got pumped in the sport afterward. So forever grateful for that, and very happy to say that I was watching that live, and that was an important moment in my own experience as a mixed martial arts fan. But yeah, it wasn't all that of a fight in and of itself. So
that's a good call. Griffin Bonner, if you extract it from the context and what was at stake in the fight, it was a main card banger. It was a good action fight. Knowing that those two dudes who, if you watch the show, you'd gotten to know, warts and all, like funny dudes, weird guys. I mean, if you were pulled in by what was at stake and, up until the moment it happened, you assume one of those guys was going to get a UFC contract and the other was going to, be headed back to the minor leagues. It made it much bigger at the time than it seems now if you watch it divorced from that context. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And the game is very, very much advanced in a technical sense since then. Like if you watch that, with an eye towards that, yeah, it's a messy brawl, but lots of fun.
Yeah, definitely fun. Like it's definitely a fun fight, and I definitely don't proclaim to be the technical genius of mixed martial arts. Like really heavy duty technical analysis is not my strong suit necessarily, but I do like to keep an eye on the technique. So it's very difficult for me to separate what I see technically from the experience of a fun brawl.
Yes. I mean, I'm not a technical wizard either, but I do recognize guys swinging hooks with their head down, like looking at the floor when I see them. Which
right.
I had a good share of.
Yeah.
That fight was not responsible for getting me into mixed martial arts. I mean, I had already been into it for a year or two at that point, but it is certainly the reason I'm talking to you this evening. So here's.
Hey, what you drinking there, by the way, man?
Not Proper 12.
Oh.
Drinking a fine middle shelf American whiskey.
Okay. All right. So you're not rolling with the Jameson brothers either.
I was waiting for the early reviews to come back on the Proper 12. I like Jameson all right, but if I'm drinking an Irish whiskey, I'll get Bushmills.
Okay.
Having said that, I'm not a snob. Difference between a snob and an aficionado is if you're pouring, I'll drink whatever you've got and say thank you. If I'm buying, it's Bushmills.
Got you. Makes sense. Makes sense, man. All right, see what else we got.
Other than the main event, what fight on 229 are you both looking forward to the most?
All right, I guess I'll jump this one off. I mean, of course, I don't want to take the cheap answer because, of course, I got to see Ferguson versus Pettis. That fight is just begging for all sorts of attention. That's going to be a great thing. And then on top of that, the fight's going to be good. Those two guys are great at what they do because they have the first name Anthony. Anthony is a name that denotes greatness. So let's go ahead and mark that. Tony versus Tony. Tony Walker out here and talking about it. It's going to be the thing right there. Another Tony Martin is on the card as well. So I can't talk about the Anthonys because we're all incredible. But let's see here. I'm going to say Dominic Reyes and OSP. I'm really looking forward to that one because Dominic Reyes is a guy who is known for athleticism and just being able to do crazy things with his body. OSP is that same guy as well, just an athletic freak. So I want to see what the young athletic guy is going to look like against the older, little more seasoned athletic guy. And I mean, it's crazy too when we think about OSP. We still kind of think about OSP as like this prospect and this developing talent, The dude's 35 years old, man. He's 35. I think we've seen his skill set cemented. Like, this is what he does. He's gonna throw that jab to the front kick combo, no matter how awkward it looks. He's gonna do it because it works for him, and he's gonna go for those Von Flue chokes. He's gonna do what he does, and I think that should be very interesting to see an undefeated talent noted for similar athleticism in Dominic Reyes. That should be really, really interesting. Also, two pretty sizable gentlemen as well.
That is something I've heard. I'm excited for that fight as well. I love OSP. I mean, at this point, as you pointed out, he's 35 years old. I won't even say the flaws, but the quirks and wrinkles in his game are what they are at this point. You know, for him to be a former Division I linebacker, to be in the sport of mixed martial arts for a decade, and his offense still consists of jab in the front kick, like reverse roundhouse head kicks, and ultra low percentage submissions, is completely awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, like, I would be disappointed if he changed his game at this point, because tell me when OSP fights, you're not just going to watch because you saw his name. Like, you're going to watch because something interesting is going to happen. You can go from that head kick knockout over Corey Anderson that he had at 217, or Manawa sleeping him, or it's a Von Flue choke, or it's something just unusual and spectacular. So I'm here for it.
And him versus Tyson Pedro is still in my top 3 rounds of the year.
Yeah, that was fire. Absolute fire.
It was like 3 different awesome fights in like 4 minutes. So yeah, love some OSP. Personally, I mean, same as you. The obvious main card stuff is all stuff I'm excited for. I want to see Ferguson versus Pettis. I'm excited for Tanya Evinger and Aspen Ladd.
Oh, good call.
I've been watching Aspen Ladd since she was in Invicta a year or 2 ago, and in spite of looking like a 15-year-old, she is just a brute. You know, she's a beast. I like how physical and aggressive she is. I want to see if it works on a wily veteran like Evinger, who's good everywhere. I mean, Evinger's good at stopping the takedown if that's what Ladd wants, and if she can stop the takedown, he can probably box Ladd up. You know, Aspen Ladd does not have a very developed striking game yet, but if Ladd does get her down and start to go into her kind of Hulk smash routine, Evinger has good submission offense off her back. So I'm excited. It'll give a real good idea of where both of them stand in the bantamweight division, which, I mean, that's what I watch for as a hardcore fan. I'm watching for that fight that kind of takes 2 people that are in or around the top 10 and tells me which one is going up the ladder and which one's going down.
Yeah, it's definitely a good call, man. And I want to add to that a little bit too, because Tanya Evinger has been low key like one of the most consistently good fighters that we've had in mixed martial arts. Certainly one of the low key great women fighters. So I'm glad to see her get a proper UFC debut. Of course, she made her debut at 214 last year against Cyborg, but she's fighting a weight class up. It was very clear that was, I mean, she still toughed it out to get to the 3rd round. So credit to her on that end. She still did what she could, but that was a completely unwinnable situation that they thrust upon her. You know, your octagon jitters, along with a weight class up, along with this all-time killer in the sport. And for someone with the legacy that Evinger has, she should have been in the UFC a long time ago. So I'm very happy to see her have a proper debut in her natural weight class and get a spotlight without, you know, being a sacrificial lamb. So shout out to her on that one. And, you know, fighting an undefeated talent in Aspen Ladd, why not? I'm here for it, man.
Awesome. All right. And this is a good question for you, Ant, since you've kind of been in and around the event all week. Who will be the most famous person or people attending UFC 229? Let's say famous for something other than mixed martial arts. Will Floyd be there? Will Tom Brady show up since he's playing now? Some other superstars? Give your best guess.
I would imagine Tom Brady would be there because they said he is in town, right, to play the Raiders or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, so yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all, and he's got a long-standing relationship with the UFC. So I'd imagine he'd show up. Floyd wouldn't be a surprise. The thing is, we haven't heard a lot about, at least I haven't heard a lot about celebrities being around, but it's also media week. Like nobody is really here for that. Even though we've had a lot of fans around and making their noise and doing what they do, this still is just a fraction of what's going on. Tomorrow is when the foolishness really begins, when we go to that ceremonial weigh-in. That's when we're all about being in the shits at that moment. So I expect the celebrities to start popping up around then. I'll have a better idea tomorrow night, after I filed my content for the day, and I just so happen to see what some of the finer adult beverages of Vegas have to do for me. I'm sure we'll run into somebody. I'll get to see somebody around, and I'll have a better idea. But they ain't the celebrities that just show up for these big events. They ain't here for the shits like we are. They're not here for the media stuff. They're not here to soak up the atmosphere. They're here to get on camera, get seen at the event, and they'll be out. I bet you we won't even see them through the prelims. So yeah, there's that.
Outstanding. I'm going to ask our helper on the forums, Jay, to let me know if there are any other questions that have come up, since we're sitting at about 5 minutes till the hour right now.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, man.
Question for you, though.
Yeah. What's up?
I mean, now that we're kind of on the doorstep of the event, is there a part of you that's surprised that the main card has made it through intact?
Yes, and we're still not out of the thick of it just yet. Weigh-ins are tomorrow. I will breathe that sigh of relief when we report from the actual weigh-ins at like 9 in the morning. I'll breathe my sigh of relief at that moment. Until then, it's all up in the air, And also keep in mind, Tony Ferguson did make it somewhat clear, and I say somewhat clear because he was speaking a bit in code, but I think I read through it enough where he said that there was something in his contract about, or at least he's insinuated there was something in his contract about him being pulled as a late replacement in case Conor or Khabib fell out for any reason. So we'll see. I mean, I hope that doesn't come to that. We heard someone ask Dana about that at the press conference, and Dana was not trying to have any of that. He didn't want to entertain the possibility, and I don't even want to entertain it either. I mean, this is such a big event. Let's just have this be what it is, and let's just make it. Everybody pray to those MMA gods, however fickle and spiteful and downright cruel they can be. Sometimes they bestow their mercy upon us, and they bless us with these beautiful treats of wonderful displays of violence and brutality, and we thank them for that. So please, MMA guys, don't play your boy like that, man. Don't play your boy like that. We submit to your mercy. All right.
They hate us, Ant. The MMA gods hate us. When anything good happens, it's just because they were on a break.
Well, let's hope they're on vacation.
All right, last one for you. You've thrown out the idea before of doing a feature where you lined up mixed martial artists with their corresponding superheroes, XMen, Avengers, what have you. Have you given any more thought to that?
Yeah, I've given some thought to it. I asked a few of the fighters, and it's a couple of them that I meant to ask Derrick Lewis, and I totally forgot because we started talking about hip hop. but I was very disappointed in Sergio Pettis. Sergio Pettis, when I asked him, he had no idea what I was talking about. He says he's not a comic book guy. I should have had a hip hop conversation with him. I should have done that. I know he knows hip hop. So you just see him at the open workouts. He was singing along to J. Cole's Motivate, even the part when Cole was like speeding up the flow. He was right there with every word. So I should have had the hip hop conversation with him as well. But anyway, he doesn't know anything about comic books. So Sergio, step your game up, bro. Step your game up. Get on this comic book loving, man. So holla at me. we need to talk. But yeah, man, I did ask Tony Martin. Tony Martin was fond of Iron Man, so not a bad answer. I don't think that will be the character that will correspond with him necessarily. I have to sit on that a little while. But Iron Man, you know what? I see Conor being kind of like Iron Man. Conor's the filthy rich, abrasive personality guy right there, who's all about the action. That is probably my pick for Iron Man. But yeah, man, I do want to give that piece some thought, because as a lot of people who have followed my foolishness on Sherdog know, I'm definitely about the comic book characters. So yeah, we'll spread that one. We'll give that one some legs, man. And shout out to, I want to say his name is Sed, that was in the chat last week and proposed that. So yeah, that was a good idea, man. Man, props to him for that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Looking at Derrick Lewis, it's just a shame that a welterweight already called himself the Juggernaut.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, yeah, Derrick Lewis, man, what a monster of a human being right there. Nice guy. Thank God he's a nice guy. Man, that's one of them dudes that's so just large and obviously a very commanding presence that you just think think everybody, think whatever deity you pray to, that this man is nice. Because, well, if he was a mean dude, man, we all be in trouble. There ain't nothing we could do to stop him. So yeah.
Sounds like a juggernaut to me.
And you know what? Also, back on the Derrick Lewis thing, I know at one point, I forget who wrote this, but somebody wrote a story about him on Sherdog that he did not like, and he was on Twitter talking about fuck Sherdog and all this stuff. So when I approached him for the media day interview, the first thing he said to me, he laughed. He said, "Let me guess, you're here with BET." So I was like, no, man, I'm here with Sherdog. And he's like, oh, that's what's up. And he didn't give me any static. I thought I was going to have to explain myself and apologize for some writer. I don't know who it was, but yeah, that was fun.
There's no unforgivable sin, but disrespecting that Popeye's chicken.
Man, Popeyes is the truth, man. Y'all need to get up off that KFC. Popeyes is where it's at. I now, for the record, I'm not condoning Cormier's little dancing with the chicken. Like, no, that was trash. That video was so trash, Cormier. You're better than that. Thank God that was in the past. But Popeyes is dope. Popeyes is dope, man.
Popeyes is all right. Unless we have any other questions.
Let's check the YouTube chat, see if anything has popped up on there. I'll pull it up on my phone right quick. Dave Dixon's fan wrote that piece. All right, let's see here. Someone says Conor versus Ali, UFC 230. Man, I will say this. Conor was doubling down on everything he said about Ali Abdulaziz. So that was interesting. That was something else. I hope to talk with Ali around the post-fight presser and get his thoughts on it. I can't imagine that he will have something nice to say as a result of that. But yeah. So anything else, or we're gonna call it?
Let's do this as the last one.
Okay.
From 315 MMA Fighter, one more time. Would you say the Irish outnumber the Americans at the press conferences, sir? And I would expand on that with, if they don't outnumber them, are they a significant minority?
I'll say this: they definitely outnoise everybody. I can't get a gauge for the amount of people, because they're just so incredibly loud. But then also, you got to factor in the contingent of American-born people of Irish descent that are huge fans and waving their Irish flags as well. So I'm not quite sure who's who in this mix, but I do know anybody claiming Irish this weekend is loud as fuck, son. They are loud, and they are making themselves known. But I think it's also to the point where Khabib's fans are just really getting drowned out. Khabib's got a lot of supporters out here too, man. I've seen a lot of that traditional hat that he wears out to the cage. I've seen a lot of those hats around, and there were at the presser a few moments where they tried to get their Khabib chants going, but they just kept getting drowned out. So what I'm thinking is that contingency of fans is just much more like their guy, stoic, more quiet, a little more reserved. They're not exactly wild. And I don't know if you saw one of the videos that we posted on the YouTube channel yesterday, where I got to talk to a guy who impersonates McGregor at these events. Talking, he's wild, he's crazy.
Dylan Dennis?
Oh no, he's just some drunk guy named Marcus.
Oh, we just said guy who impersonates McGregor.
Oh, shots fired. But yeah, so that guy, you see his behavior compared to the diehard Khabib fan who's wearing the hat, and I think that is the perfect translation of the fan bases. Khabib's fans are not yelling the crazy stuff. They're not yelling the same insult over and over and over again. They're just kind of enjoying the moment and politely clapping and cheering. You know, they're not offering that extra level of fandom. And you know what? I also did want to say this too. The fan that, you know what? No, actually, no, I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to give this guy any press. Some fan, I ain't giving him no press. If you listen, my man, you are trash. So we'll just leave it at that. Super trash, my guy. Super trash.
We have one last question come in. Take it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's up. Let's do it.
Thoughts on the potential outcome between Lewis and Volkov?
You know what? That's interesting too, man. Derrick Lewis, he did kind of give me his insight on what he thought Volkov was going to do, and he's thinking he's going to use his height. He's going to get those kicks going from a distance. So he's anticipating kicks to the body. I think that would be a very good strategy to employ. I mean, you just don't want Lewis close enough to land those sledgehammers on you. But one thing I will say about this, I don't think Volkov is going to walk away from this unscathed. I think he might get the win. I think he might get that win, man, for kind of staying the course and being steadier. But let's not sleep on some of the technical improvements that Black Beast has made. This is the same guy who escaped Gabriel Gonzaga's mount a couple of years ago, and he's gotten better since then. And he says that his back is doing a lot better, and he's not in nearly as much pain as he's used to training with and stuff. So maybe that's helped him sharpen up some things. But I think that's going to be a back and forth battle. I'm going to give Volkov the edge just because he has that reach to lean on, and he's got the technical kickboxing prowess. But man, I just got to see what that chin looks like. But I'll take Volkov by a very close decision.
All right, we diverge on that one. I think Lewis is going to knock him out.
What round you see that happening
then? Inside of a round and a half.
Okay, yeah, and you know what? That outcome wouldn't shock me in the least bit. I mean, to say Derrick Lewis gets an early knockout, hey, I'm all for it. Like that, we've seen that happen way too many times. Like I was at 184, and when he fought Ruan Potts, I believe it was, and damn near like caved his head into the mat. Like it was scary to see a human being do that to someone else. Like that was wild. I wouldn't sleep on Derrick Lewis, and you know, no slight on him to say he might lose a decision because Volkov is a former champion in 2 major promotions, so we can't sleep on what this man is capable of, and he's shown. I mean, he tore through Fabricio Verdum, who, you know, 2 blinks of an eye ago was the heavyweight champion, and we were talking about as potentially the greatest heavyweight of all time with his wins over Kane, Nog, and Fedor. And Volkov slept them. So there's something to that story. But I think either way, these guys are not walking away unscathed. It's going to be a battle, in my opinion.
I'm totally with you on that one. I do not think we will see a repeat of Derrick Lewis's last fight. Right.
Yeah, definitely not. There won't be the gun shyness from either guy. And if we see the gun shy from Lewis, it's going to be because of his back. The man's mentality says nothing of gun shy, says nothing of being rattled by his opponent, or he's just not that guy. He lives in his own world. He functions there. It works for him. Expect that to continue. Win, lose, or draw.
Outstanding. I believe that is all the questions and all the time we have for this evening. So thank you, clumsy genius from the forums for that last question. And any last words for the people, Ant?
Yeah, just follow along on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. Sorry we didn't have the overlays like we do normally, but hey, man, tech issues, what you gonna do? So just follow along, man. So I'll be at the proper weigh-ins tomorrow. Try to get some good stuff out there and keep you guys updated on what's going on. Keep an eye out for all the good stuff as a journalist does, and we'll see what it is. But yeah, it should be tomorrow is where it starts getting crazy. So hold your horses, pray to those MMA gods, or pray that they stay on vacation. But yeah, man. Yeah, so I guess that'll do it. So for Ben, where the people can find you, man?
Well, they can certainly find me on Sherdog's front page most days, but on Twitter they can find me at Benjamin Duffy.
All right. So for Ben Duffy, I'm Anthony Walker. You can stick along with us at Sherdog.com, like and subscribe, all that beautiful stuff. And until we see you next time, stay sexy. Peace.